I never expected to see my dad on the news. I was at the bank for the 4th time in a week. They kept screwing up my account, and it was on the TV behind the tellers. I didn't recognize him. Why should I? His back was to the camera. But somehow it feels like failure, like a blood betrayal. Something inside me, some shared strand of DNA, should have stood up and made me pay attention. Of course I watched, just like everyone else. I was curious. I should have recognized my own father. The way he moved, I should have known it was him. I keep a picture of him on my bookshelf. The brim of his hat shadows his eyes, but you can see his mouth. He's smiling, showing the gap where he lost the tooth. In a bar fight, he said. Though I found out later it was just something dumb. Just coming around a corner too fast and not seeing the door. You lose teeth on the floor of a bar, not in the carpeted hallway of a cube farm. He thought so anyway, and so do I. I'm my father's daughter, and I'd rather lose a tooth in a bar fight any day. Just try me. He looks good in the photo. That smile and the hat. One of his cowboy hats. The working hat that had molded to his head over the years. A good hat is important, Daddy said. And I ate that up too, along with bar fights and romance. And this picture of him and me, his hand resting on my neck. The sun cutting across our faces, and I'm squinting. No hat for me, not yet. I'm squinting and starting to turn my face toward him. I'm just about to ask him something, but his eyes are on the camera. I should have had a hat too. I have one now. I have 5 or 6 of them for different kinds of weather and different shades of anxiety. He didn't when he walked into the Walmart, and maybe that was the problem. He didn't have a hat to shade his eyes. And when all those TVs shone out at him, row after row after row, I think it must have been blinding. The shine of it sending messages right into his brain like shards of sunlight, and I can't exactly blame him for any of it. I used to sit with Dad when things went slippery for him. When he'd ask me to touch his wrist, to place my fingers on his pulse, to give him my own pulse to feel so he could reconnect and know that he was real, and the room would slide into place, layers of reality sneaking in like books on a library shelf. There the couch, there the vacuum cleaner, there my daughter, and here is her pulse, her heart jumping in my hand. If I'd been around, if I'd been with him at the Walmart, I could have brought him back. But I hadn't been over to see him in months. I don't actually think about it much. Only now and then when I'm making dinner and something triggers. Maybe it's the knife I'm using or the smell of the mustard, and I have to rest my hands on the counter for a minute and let the water boil over. That's when I see him again in the security video, his back as he walks down the aisle from sporting goods. He has the aluminum bat in his hand already. He picked it up on his way over. He walks once past the row of the TVs, the bat hanging down and swinging back and forth. He's just playing with it. He walks all the way past and then turns smoothly like it was choreographed. He turns and lifts the bat in both hands, all in one motion, and slams the bat into the TV, winds up, smashes the next, then the next. He makes a little flourish with the bat. I've seen that before. Out back of the house, I'm holding the ball down between my legs, nodding at the invisible catcher behind Dad. And he's standing at the plate. He twirls the bat behind his head, showing me he's not worried for a second. He's going to smash it out of the park. That's when I know he's loving this. The chemicals in his brain are singing, and bam, bam, bam. One TV after another smashed, shards jumping up with every glorious explosion. Dad's on his high, he's got stars in his eyes, and he's only one step away from seeing the face of God. He wasn't ever dangerous. He was magnanimous. He was doing us all a favor. Anyone came up to him then, he'd have taken off his shirt to cover them. They only show the video of the smashing on the news. They don't show what came after. But I saw the whole thing in chambers with the judge. Everyone was watching me carefully. I felt their eyes on me, but I didn't know what they were waiting for. I wanted them to shut their eyes. The attention blared at me like a siren. He gets to the end of the row and stands back to admire his work. He's dropping the bat. He's already dropped it. I can see it rolling on the floor. And someone must be saying something to him because he turns. I can see his profile, though it's just about impossible to make out his expression on the crappy security feed. But I know he's smiling. He's smiling, and he turns like a teacher turning toward a student who's asked a question. And then he steps back. That's the first shot, someone said. Someone was speaking in that terrible little room, but I couldn't look away from the screen to see who it was. On the video, it looks sort of casual. He steps back, and then he sits down. I can see him trying to get back up, sort of scrabbling his hands around, but he can't. That's when the cop comes into frame, his gun out in that cop posture, both hands holding the gun. You can't tell when he squeezes the trigger again, and there isn't that jump like you see in the movies. Dad just falls over. I should hate that cop. I should hate him, but he's just a kid. In the courtroom, he looked like he was seconds away from pissing himself. His cheeks have those red blotches people grow out of. He was probably scared shitless, this guy swinging a bat around. Not even a real cop, just a Walmart cop. A Walmart cop with a real gun. I broke up with my boyfriend a few weeks before all this happened. I guess I could have called him, but I didn't. What I did was go out for a drink to a neighborhood bar. This night it was all the slick boys in their suits and open collars. One was leaning against the bar, eyes glued to his iPhone. "Hey," he said softly to the guy next to him. "Hey, check this out." The other guy moved to look at the little screen. The one with the phone was close enough to graze my elbow, but he never even glanced over. All the same, I could see what was on the screen. My dad at bat. My dad swinging for the fences with all his heart. The two guys are chuckling softly, and I don't blame them. If I had been a better daughter, maybe I would. Maybe I should have stood up and knocked out his teeth. But this is all I have to work with. These two guys, heads close together, watching my dad in his brief, glorious moment. They laughed. I laughed too, in the bank. I saw the man smashing TVs in the Walmart, and I thought, how perfect. How American. Crazy fucker. And then it was my turn at the teller.